Welcome to unit number 5 of block 2. This is part of MJM022, Writing and Editing for Print Media. We have covered block 1 so far. In that, we have extensively discussed about news writing, basics of writing, effective writing, and translation. The block 2 is more into the analytical writing. The first topic is a feature writing. As a journalism student, you'll be surprised if you get an assignment to write a news story, but with the two conditions. One, you should not follow inverted pyramid style. The two, you should not follow 5W1H. Normally, any news writing has to follow these basic two primary conditions. That may be the reason for your surprise. But in any newspaper content, be it daily or magazine, content can be divided into two categories as we discussed in the block 1. One set is hot news, another one is soft news. The feature writing, it belongs to the second category, soft news. Extensively, we are going to discuss about the different kinds of feature writing and what are the important ingredients of feature writing and how a career can be planned in this area. We assume that you might have read the unit number 5, feature writing. And before presentation is always read the concerned unit and attend the presentation. That will be more beneficial, that gives better understanding. Come, let's go to the presentation. As a standard format, we have divided this unit into multiple subsegments, starting with introducing the main concept of the feature writing, followed by the learning outcome, the expected learning outcome after reading this unit, and then you will understand the basic components of a feature story, and particularly able to understand the difference between a news story and the feature article. More importantly, the different kinds of feature stories, how to write a story before writing, what are the preparation needs to be done, and more importantly, what are the career opportunity exist in the media industry, be it the newspaper or in the magazine segments. In any society, media plays a very crucial role. Newspapers or television channels, radio or news websites. Millions of people are subscribing, accessing, watching, and reading all the content. It would be very difficult to imagine a segment of the human society which is not affected by mainstream media. Media presence is very strong. Media plays a important functions like providing information, providing education, providing entertainment. We'll come to the focus area of newspaper content. The newspaper content can be divided into two. One is a hard news, another one is soft stories. The hard news, as we discussed in the block 1, follows very typical inverted pyramid style, answering 5W1H, and gives information about the latest developments in a brief format, 300 words or 500 words. Feature stories are not news stories. These are soft stories, doesn't need to follow inverted pyramid, doesn't need to answer all the 5W1H. Reason is the feature stories doesn't follow one particular event on limited scale. It goes beyond the today's event, goes in depth into that, and providing a holistic opinion and trying to build a dialogue. An elaborate approach on particular issue, particular profile, particular phenomena or relationship between event and a person and different institutions. So that's the specialty of the feature stories. And it's a human psychology that if there is an incident happens, we tend to probe more, we tend to know more about an incident. So that's how the feature plays a crucial role. It fulfills the reader's need, reader's demand for elaborate information, and it gives good attention to the readers and provides a holistic view about issue. For example, if you take a news story on COVID-19 and a feature story on COVID-19, the news stories talks about today's number of cases happened in a state or in a country. But if you take a feature story on COVID-19, it may not cover about today's number of cases. It talks about last 3 months, talks about last 4 months, about corona's spread from one region to another region, how it affected the different age groups, what are the scientific information related to the vaccine development, and what are the future possible development would happen. By the journalist may interview different scientists, health workers, different documents. May not be on particular national perspective, it may cover different continents. Now you can understand the difference between a story, news story about today's coronavirus spread and a future story about the relationship between coronavirus and its impact on different age groups over the period of 3 4 months in different settings: Europe, America, Asia, and different continents. So that's a specialty with a future story, and it gives in lot of information about an issue to the audience. That's one of the reasons why the news industry, magazines and newspapers, spends a lot of money and human resource to develop a feature stories. Equally important, hard news, how much important for newspaper. Similarly, soft stories, feature stories are very crucial for newspaper, more importantly, magazines. After reading this unit, you'll be able to comprehend what is the future is about, and you will find the difference between news article versus feature stories, and you will be able to differentiate the writing for a feature and writing for other journalistic exercises. Learn more about the different kinds and types of feature stories and how to write a story and how to make a career in the industry as a freelance news feature writer. Before understanding different components of feature, it would be better to understand what are the soft stories are classified as a feature stories. In this unit, we have listed a prominent one, but in the soft stories categories, you will find a number of types and categories of news content: the opinion pieces, commentaries, columns, editorial piece, and of course features. Sometimes you'll find a very thin difference between these kind of categories, but soft stories as a whole talks about in-depth perspectives, explanation, and going beyond the today's event. So in that, I think here we are going to list the prominent news features. The first one is news features. News features has its own time limitations. Suppose an event, an issue happened today, the news feature has to be written within 1 or 2 days. If it is a newspaper, magazine, of course, they can afford it because of the periodicity, weekly or fortnightly or monthly. But the competition with the newspapers are very, 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 very tough. I think the news features, one of the very prominent news features, based on event and kind of features being taken it out and gives detailed explanation, detailed description of an event, of an issue, of a personality. It's one of the very popular news feature in the newspaper content. The second one is a special event feature. If it is Olympics, World Cup, UN climate change meeting, G20 meeting, chief ministers meeting, these kind of political events, international events, specific issue-based events always attracts special feature speeches. It's being written. You might have seen the features before cricket World Cup, or before climate change conditions, or before the G20 meeting, and the features goes beyond the meeting, talks about the main agenda, talks about the relationship between different members involved in that, or preparation for an event, cricket or Oscar nomination function. And the feature story gives background information, gives other side of the event, and gives chronological order, much more information. That is a special event feature. The next one is personality feature. Writing a profile of a person, usually like a news feature, profile feature also associated with the event issues. It has its own time constraints, and in one of your assignment, you are supposed to write a one profile feature of woman personality, and you need to understand the reason behind this question. Like a normal social setup, there's always an imbalance between genders. There's a gender imbalance is visible in every social context. Same being reflected in a newsroom too. Take the last 5 years newspaper, one or many newspaper. Just count how many profiles are being written on male and female personalities. You will find the difference. Always good number of stories profiles are written on male personality, and not equal or less than that about woman personality, because in a politics it's a male dominated, and particularly in our context. Go to Bollywood, again it's a stardom, male stars, heroes dominated. So you take any examples, there is a difference in a gender, automatically gets reflected in a profile, writing a feature on that. So that is one of the reason why this question is being included, to create awareness among our students. This is kind of scenarios existing that needs to be taken care of. Effort has to be taken in a longer term. Of course, we can't do it in overnight. It takes time to balance the imbalance. For example, in the international level, one of the Department of United Nations, UN Women, regularly they're undertaking efforts to bring out more news profile of women personality in collaboration with the Wikipedia. They are doing very regularly, and during Women's Day event, you might have noticed this kind of communication. And even otherwise, also you can go and visit Wikipedia, you can understand that for your assignment. Beyond submitting the profile to the university for your grading purpose, it will be better if you upload that content in Wikipedia, whatever language you prefer, that you're comfortable. Because Wikipedia has the addition of n number of languages, including many Indian languages. So take that quite seriously and try to attempt and write a good profile of a woman personality of your choice from any field. And next one is the interview feature. Again, it's based on the event and needs to be carried out at the earliest within 1 or 2 days time, talking and speaking with the person involved in the news with, or person associated with the event. But time constraint, that's a specialty of the newspaper. We can't afford to have 10 days, 15 days to write a feature. Of course, there may be occasions, but normally that's not allowed on that. Next is how-to features, and mostly it's related to the technological intervention, technological innovations, like using a mobile, updating a software, or using how to handle the virus attack or new instruments. And this feature explains a step-by-step method of adopting or following certain precautions. For example, how to use Aragya Setu app for your before taking your travel. So one of the example of how to features. The next one is a background features, like a special event features on certain important events, some certain important days. For example, World Environment Day or HIV/AIDS Day or kind of meeting or kind of major event happened. Then the newspaper always carry out the timeline 5 years back, how it was happened, how it started, what was the progress 8 years back, and what was the progress 2 years back, what was the progress just the last month and up to today. So that kind of information they give as background information may not be very lengthy, but a kind of addition to the your main story that easy that will help the readers to understand the today's event and its background. Because don't expect that every reader knows all the story, all the events, because every day we are dealing with a multiple number of events. So it's better to carry kind of background information for not necessarily for everything, but major events. Next one is about investigative features. The popular, the number one features in the newspaper industry is investigative features. Mass media is considered as one of the four pillars of the democracy, and it's acting like a watchdog. It's supposed to check the performance of public institutions, and investigative feature is one of the powerful tool many newspapers across the world use to change the political history. The classic example is the Watergate scandal in America, and around the early 1970s, the Washington Post reporter Bob Woodward, he wrote a classic series of stories about the president's involvement in the political process. Based on this Washington Post story, the whole political history of America in that point of time got changed. See the powerful, the tool and powerful functions of the feature, investigative feature, we have in Indian context also, we have a number of investigative stories done by many number of newspapers. In one of the paper in the semester media law and ethics, you will find a discussion on the means and methods of retrieving information for investigative pieces. There is always an argument about this kind of uh, investigative pieces, how they're collecting information. Journalists or media industry always argue in favor of we are doing for sake of public interest. But the other side, they say that this method of collecting information not acceptable. So that's always kind of discussion goes in favor on support or against the process of information for investigative pieces, because investigative features always goes against the powerful people, powerful institution, corporates, government, public bodies and all. It's not easy to get the information. So that's why some certain institution, media institution or journalist, they'll try different method to collecting information. Of course, you will find this ethical dimension in other course, media law and ethics. Next one is a color features happens during the festival time, not a regular appearance, but frequently during the festival time, and with colorful pictures and explaining about function and association and the market scenario, new cloth or new trend in that festival time. Next is Adventist Features. This is about a traveler, maybe a journalist himself or herself traveled, or interaction with a person who traveled that a remote, unknown, adventurous location. Usually, this kind of feature attracts attention due to many readers might have visited the place or intended to visit the place. So they usually read the story. about kind of adventurous features. Opinion features this is about expert's opinion or based on research findings, writing a feature on certain issue. For example, for during the current scenario, if a scientist from pharmaceutical area describing about the process involved in the development of vaccination, whether it's possible within this year or next year, how long it will take, and what are the steps involved in the development of vaccination, human trial, and mass production, and many concerns about side effects. Remember that HIV/AIDS, we don't have vaccination till date, but we have good improved treatment. So it's vaccination is not an easy process. So that feature gives multiple perspectives on this current scenario and how far we can achieve the vaccination and introduce into the human trials or later to the market. So that's a kind of opinion features. Next one is human interest story. Next to investigative features, human interest story is the second most popular feature format, apart from the news features we found in the earlier slides. There, at 1 week or 10 days back, you might have noticed a story about a girl traveled from Gurgaon to a remote village of Uttar Pradesh by cycle, along with the injured father. The distance she covered nearly 1,200 kilometers. A lot of international and national media, newspapers, TV channels, websites, they covered the girl's journey from one place to another place, that too in the summertime. This is kind of unusual human experience, always attracts our attention, readers' attention. You'll find plenty of the stories like investigative pieces and news features and human interest stories. The last one is a development features. Though unlike other features, these kind of developmental features are rarely occurs in Indian newspapers. uh, they usually give very limited number of space for developmental issues. But still, a good number of people achieved tremendous work, contributed tremendous work in this field. But for example, P. Sainath, he wrote extensively on rural affairs, on developmental sectors and different water issues and migrant issues, labor issues. One of the classic examples from Sainath is about his book on Everybody Loves Good Drought. That's all. That's the categories. That's examples of developmental